Hello everyone, my name's Tyler. Welcome to another episode of Fortnite Battle Royale Ideas. In today's video, we will be talking about the idea of a hot air balloon, something visually similar to an airdrop but functions in such a way that allows you to hop in and use it for travel. Today's video idea comes from Nerfy, who says, hot air balloon. I think it's a funny way to interact with supply drops. You'll need a supply drop, 100 wood, and 3 fuel tanks to make it. It takes 25 seconds to make, it can stay about 3 minutes in the air, it has 5,000 health, and enemies can track it down by shooting. In the background, you're seeing some duo gameplay where we jump in at Dusty Divot. Our starting loot is not favorable, but I don't think the enemies found too much to work with either. After the struggles there are over, I consume some pop rocks to make my way towards retail, where the circle will eventually close in by. A little patience waiting out the last team's fighting, and a good flank sets me up for a 1v1 situation in the end. If you enjoyed the gameplay, give the video a thumbs up. We have discussed the idea of vehicles in Fortnite in an early episode of Battle Royale Ideas. If you want to know my opinions on vehicles and how I think they could or could not work within Fortnite, click the card on screen. Whether you've seen that video or not, my opinion on the hot air balloon idea is that it could work. And just like every idea, I'll say, if done right. And I think the main thing to watch out for with the addition of such a device would be the speed at which it could travel. So I looked up how fast a hot air balloon travels because, well, I've never been in one before, though I do think it would be fun. The first thing I read was that the fastest ground speed for a manned balloon was 245 miles per hour or 394 kilometers. At first, I was in disbelief, but records are crazy. I scrolled down a bit more on my Google search and found more what I was looking for. How fast do balloons go? The answer? As fast as the wind blows. But if the wind is over 8 miles per hour at ground level, balloons are not normally going to be inflated because of the increased possibility of burning the fabric, and because landing would likely be rough and require a large field. My main concern with vehicles within Fortnite was the lack of time management you would have to have if you had access to a vehicle. 8 miles per hour, or about 13 kilometers, is about the running speed in Fortnite, I'd say. Either way, let's say the balloon travels at about running speed. In my opinion, its speed isn't its main benefit. Altitude is its main benefit. Being able to traverse the map above the enemy would provide so many advantages. You can get the scope of the battlefield, see where people are and where they've been, shoot down on an enemy, get the high ground on an enemy that is on a hill or has built up a base, pass by enemies below, unnoticed, above. This is where the hot air balloon shines. Not to say these Fortnite concepts have to emulate reality, but I looked up how high hot air balloons travel. You'll be getting some hot air balloon fun facts in this video apparently. Flights in hot air balloons have been recorded at over 50,000 feet or about 15,000 meters, at least according to this Google page. However, the sport of ballooning is most enjoyable when flying 1,200 to 3,000 feet or about 360 to 900 meters. That might be a little bit high for Fortnite. I imagine 365 meters would be about 120 ramps high. That's more than maxing out one resource. That's pretty high. The map I did there assumes that a ramp is about 3 meters tall. Whatever the height, let's call it 300 meters, or let's say it's about as high in the air as when it first spawns. However high that is, let's just go with that. Depending on temperature and weight, most balloons in our world can fly for about an hour. Let's just use Nerfy's suggestion of 2 to 3 minutes of loft time for Fortnite. Now comes the steering part. Generally speaking, pilots don't steer balloons. The balloons drift in the same direction and speed as the wind. The pilot picks the altitude that has the most desirable wind direction. Surface winds many times blow in different directions than higher winds. The burner allows it to rise and fall. The longer flame and hotter air make it rise, and the smaller the flame, or none at all, will cool the air, causing the balloon to descend. The balloon could travel differently depending on if it was in the storm, or close to the storm, or nowhere near the storm at all. Weather effects could also be added into the game. This is an idea I've had mentioned to me before. Rain, wind, and other variable factors would be a fun addition of Fortnite, I think. If you have any ideas for weather effects, leave them in the comments below. At the least, maybe you can steer left and right, and you can ascend and descend by pressing up and down. Pressing down too quickly, however, could make for a quick descend, maybe even one that you can't recover from. Or maybe the balloon automatically flies towards the center of the current circle. Supply drops are never beneficial to shoot down. They have too much health. But if they retain their same health for the purpose of this hot air balloon, I don't think it would be enough. I think the 5,000 health mentioned would be good for this item. It keeps the passenger, or passengers, safe, but it will be traveling slow enough that it can be easily shot. Shooting it could mark it on the map, making it easier to spot, just like a supply drop, but I'm not sure I like this. But then again, how would you know how much health it has? I guess anyone that's done damage to it can see the health bar. Anyone else cannot. That way it makes it harder to spot for people who have not seen it yet. Now let's talk about building this thing. You need a supply drop, 100 wood, and as mentioned in the comment, 3 fuel tanks. I'm good with this. I'd also be okay with the hot air balloon just needing a supply drop and the materials, but I think adding the fuel tanks not only makes sense, but also opens the game up for a lot of possibilities. We've mentioned in the past how gas stations can serve a purpose on the map by allowing you to fuel up items such as the flamethrower. This would probably be different, as a hot air balloon I imagine would use propane gas, but you could still find bottles of propane at gas stations or somewhere site specific on the map. I really like the idea of adding in map elements that give certain areas of the map purpose. This is something we've touched on in the past with bringing life to the map with animals and wildlife, and an idea I plan on exploring in a later video. For example, how cool would it be to have a hospital on the map, but the only items you find at that location are healing items? Going for a supply drop is risky business as it is. Taking 25 seconds to build this thing would be a very long time, but I don't think Nerfy meant it to be that your character is exposed for that long. I think you should have the option to drop the 100 wood and the fuel tanks next to the supply drop, and then you have the option to hold a button to craft the hot air balloon. Holding the button would only take a few seconds, but for it to complete construction, it would take another 20 seconds or so. It's kind of like building a metal wall. It happens instantly, but takes a while to finish constructing. I would do it this way because 25 seconds is a long time not to be doing anything else in Fortnite. At least this way, while it's finishing up, you can still loot, build, or fight. So the question is this thing worth it? Do you think that the way I mentioned this item would make it any good at all? If it's high up in the air, it's going to be hard to land any shots, whether you're shooting up at the balloon or down from the balloon. But if you can control its height, you can go low enough that you can land shots or at least be in range that your grenades or maybe your grenade launcher will reach the enemy. The problem is that you're low enough that the enemy can easily shoot you or shoot you down. If they pop your balloon, you're going to fall to your death, unless of course you can land quickly enough and softly enough that you don't down yourself. I would imagine if you're falling in the balloon at the same speed of you, let's say, jumping off a cliff, you would still take fall damage while you're in the balloon. It's going to take some good timing and practice landing this thing softly so you don't take damage from the hard land. So it may be hard to land shots while in the balloon, but I've also seen people land snipe shots while rocket riding, so it's not impossible. Plus, you've got the option of the grenade launcher and tossing out C4 from overhead. That would be pretty crazy. I think the hot air balloon could be effective for firefights. But then again, you may just want to get it to traverse the map above to avoid firefights between two other teams. Or you may want to provide recon support to your team below. Or use it to get to the top of a mountain quickly without building. I do think there are some good options at your disposal with this item. I just think there'd be a bit of a learning curve that comes along with flying it. And there's nothing wrong with that. What do you think of the hot air balloon item? We've got supply drops in the game already. Why not be able to man them? People jump pad and rocket ride through the sky. Why not add in another item but with different nuances to it? Let me know what you think of the item in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, thumbs it up and share it with a friend. Thanks for watching, subscribe for Fortnite and all things gaming. This has been Toast, and I'll see you on the next video.